Welcome to Doing the Work, a Naples Integrated Recovery podcast. My name is Brian, and this space is for anyone who's tired of surviving the same emotional and behavioral loops, whether that's anxiety, trauma, addiction, or problems in your relationships. Around here, we cut the surface level advice and sugarcoating, no platitudes or bumper sticker wisdom. We focus on clarity, responsibility, emotional discipline, and the courage to look at yourself honestly so that you can stop repeating old patterns and start living with intention instead of reaction. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, hope that you were able to check out that interview with my sister. I think that was a pretty accurate reflection of what a year sober looks like in many different fellowships of peer-led recovery, or also what I have seen with work with clients. And that was part of why I wanted to share some of that. Is there's misconceptions that by a year sober, you don't have it all figured out, you don't have this thing licked. No, like I'm just back on my feet. I'm probably not even done with step work if you're doing a 12-step approach. And so I shared yesterday, or whenever we did that podcast, that Lindsey has consented to her speaker meeting being used. And again, this is not meant to be a reflection of how you're supposed to do any kind of a 12-step program. This is just one person sharing their experience, strength, and hope, a little bit of what their journey has looked like, what it used to look like in active addiction and with mental health challenges, what happened leading up to the change, and what life is like now. So, with her permission, this is Lindsey's one-year speaker meeting.
House numbers, I give you Lindsey.
Thank you. My name is Lindsey. I'm an addict. Well, I guess I'll just kind of start and give a little bit of a backstory. I grew up in Illinois. I moved down here 18 years ago. I grew up in a home where it was very put together. There didn't really seem to be too many problems. My parents were married for 50-something years. From the outside, it all seemed really good. I don't think either of my parents are addicts. My dad was probably a workaholic, but not any substance abuse with my parents. But I grew up feeling pretty much like I was never really good enough. My dad was a genius, and he helped a lot of people with his job and making medication, and he put so much into work that he didn't really have anything for the family, and he was pretty emotionally absent, other than to tell me what I could do better. And I grew up in a pretty religious home. I went to church every single Sunday with my mom and my brother, and church was kind of my safe place growing up, because when I was little, I had a really hard time in school. Thank you. I had a really hard time in school. I went to I went to a Christian school in elementary, and then I had to be moved to public school because I was falling behind, and I was diagnosed with dyslexia. So they put me in special ed classes, and I was made fun of a lot for, either wearing glasses or being overweight, or because I wasn't smart like the other kids, or it was I felt like I was always kind of pushed aside, we don't really know what to do with you, so we're just going to put you over here because you're not like everybody else. I felt compared a lot to my peers growing up. I remember my mom, I have a cousin who just seemed to do everything right. And I love her dearly. And my mom had compared me to her, saying, I wish that you, or like, why can't you be more like your cousin Lauren? I didn't feel like I had a lot of people fighting for me. Like, one of my mom's nicknames for me growing up was called Seabiscuit, like the horse, Seabiscuit. And like, if you guys know the story, the horse was stubborn and lazy, and nobody thought that this horse was really going to amount to anything. My mom's like, but I believe in you. And that horse ended up winning like all these like awards and stuff. Yeah, but like it was still pretty painful being like, everybody thinks you suck, but I believe in you. I'm like, thanks, Mom. So that was kind of my childhood growing up. I didn't really feel like I ever had kind of like a safe place to share my emotions. I don't know. So fast forward a little bit, I moved down here when I was 18 years old. I was the first person in my family to not go to college because I didn't feel like I was smart enough. So I went to tech school to become a hairdresser, and I've been doing hair ever since then when I was 18. And I moved down here, and I picked up my drug of choice when I was like 17, and used all the time. I feel like it was pretty socially acceptable. It's really easy to get, to just pay a doctor and get your card, and then you can go to a store, and it's super easy. So, you know, I moved down here, and I met this guy, and I was very young, and we got married when I was 21, and we started going to church together, and we led in the church for a really long time as a singer, as a worship leader with my ex-husband. And I thought that in my 20s that I had it all together. I was doing everything right. I got married young. I bought a house. I'm super involved in my church, and I would compare myself to everybody else my age. I'm like, I'm not like these people out here doing whatever they're doing. Like, I was very self-righteous, and I was quick to tell people when they were doing things wrong. And I just thought really highly of myself. But meanwhile, I was getting high while leading worship too. So like, I'm not really any different than anybody. But one day I was sitting at my table reading scripture, and I came across this verse that talked about the Pharisees, which were some of the Jewish religious leaders, and how they put weights on people's necks and didn't lift a finger to help them. And I felt really convicted over that I went in to my bathroom, and I got on my little shower mat and got on my face and my hands and my knees, and I was like, God, whatever you got to do to change this about me, like, do it, because I don't want to be this person anymore. And after I prayed that prayer, about a week later, I had found out that my ex-husband that I led worship with was having an affair for the last 2 years of our marriage. And that while I was at work on Saturdays, he was sleeping with multiple different women and then leading worship with me on Sundays. So that relationship ended, and I got a divorce, and it was very difficult. It was really public in the church because I had served that church for a long time, and I didn't feel that anybody, maybe two people, had like reached out to me, that I had served and gave so much of myself to this community, and they didn't really reach out to me or check in on how I was doing. So I eventually left that church, and if I had ever seen anybody from that church outside, they would just say, oh, we really miss seeing you on stage and we miss seeing you lead. And I'm like, but you never called me, like when I was going through something really difficult. And so they're on my step 4, needless to say. Basically, at least that one. So I started like going out and going to karaoke and playing pool, and I had met a lot of these people that I had judged so harshly, and really started connecting with them and empathizing with them and just having more compassion when I was in this really low space. And then I met a girl, and she knew that I was like involved in church, and I would always leave the bar early, or I'd have friends like, you know, that I'd go to the bathroom with, and they'd be like, hey, do you want to try this? I'm like, no, because I know that I have a problem just smoking and getting high all the time, that I don't really want to try that because I feel like I'll have a really, really big problem. And I don't want to disappoint my parents or go to like a facility, you know, like it was really, I didn't want the shame or like my ego to be hurt. So I went with her. She wanted to stop drinking and using, so I went with her to AA for a little while. And I had stopped using my drug of choice, and I stopped drinking for about 3 months. I didn't go to meetings regularly. I didn't get a sponsor. Wasn't doing step work. I was just really going to support my friend because I didn't really have a problem, right? But then the world shut down because of a pandemic, and I immediately went to the bottle after that. And then I met another guy, and I started dating him and getting high again, and that ended. So fast forward a little bit more. In 2024, I was selling my first house and buying another house. And in this time period, like, I was working with a guy who was completely opposite of me. He was like really, I was such a control freak and like dealt with so much anxiety, or like things have to be like this. And he was just so like chill and so like, I don't know, just like drifting with it. I'm like, how do you live your life? Like, we didn't agree on anything, like politically, nothing. But this guy had taught me a lot, and I became really open-minded working with him. And one day when I was at work, I noticed that there was something like pretty heavy on his spirit, and I asked him what's up, and he was like, I don't feel very good, and that he needed to go to the doctor. And he went in for a biopsy on Monday and died that Saturday. And that was really hard. Amongst with like all the other things that were going on with like buying and selling a house, which can be super stressful. And about 2 weeks after that, I had a dog that I'd had since I was 19 years old. He was 13, and one morning he did not want to get up and eat breakfast. And so I made him get up, and like they say that your animals let you know when it's time for them to go, and I felt like he did. Like, he looked at me and was like, my purpose has been fulfilled and it's time for me to go. So 2 weeks after my friend died, suddenly I had to put my dog, oh, thanks. My dog died, and yeah, I felt it was really hard, you know, like I knew that it was what was best, but like I also felt kind of like, I don't know, like a traitor. I felt like Judas Iscariot, and that I was giving my friend the kiss of death, and that I was like killing him, you know. I just felt really terrible. And I had been doing a lot of isolating. I've always been into like seeking God, or trying to find God, or studying him really, or it or whatever you want to believe and conspiracy theories and all that stuff. And the more I isolated, like I became, I don't know if you've seen the movies where somebody has like a whole board and like bullet points and things going to this. And like that was me. Like I was starting to really lose it. And, you know, they have that saying that it happens in threes. And I was getting really paranoid. I felt that like all the information of the world had been like downloaded to my brain, and it was too much for me. It was too much. And I felt that either somebody close to me or me was going to die, because they say it happens in threes. And so I was really paranoid. I was in psychosis. My new house, like the back door suddenly wouldn't lock, and like my alarm system couldn't be set. I had friends working in real estate, and both of them wanted to like chop their hair off, and I felt that they were making a sacrifice for me or something. I don't know. I went over to a friend's house to cut her hair, and when I walked in, the Miranda rights were written on her slider glass door, and I was like, why is this here? And she's like, oh, just my son's girlfriend wrote it. I felt like people were unknowingly working together for my demise, or like sending messages. When I left her house, I got an automatic message from Verizon saying that I had signed up for automatic bill pay, which I don't recall doing. And I'm like, they've got me, like they're gonna find me. So I started like sleeping at my parents' house because I was so paranoid. I also bought a cat when I was in psychosis to replace my dog. And I was just really terrified. Like I felt that they were coming after me, and I had chopped my hair off. My hair was super long at that point. It was like down halfway to my back, and I chopped it up to my chin, and I was just having a hard time like holding it together. So I was sleeping at my parents' house because I was super paranoid. And they're like, we're gonna take you to David Lawrence. And like the 4th of July was coming, Independence Day, and I thought that I was gonna be made independent from the group conscious. Like this was it. I needed to go somewhere to be safe. And so they brought me into David Lawrence. And my brother showed up there as well. And I wasn't saying anything at this point. I'm like, I can't say anything. Like they're gonna know, like I have to take a vow of silence for the rest of my life because I know too much of what's going on in the world and blah, 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 blah. And I remember getting there, and I went in back for an evaluation, and my brother went with me, and they sat me down, and they're like, so what's going on with you? And I was like, I have the right to remain silent, because anything I say will be used against me. And then my brother's like, so this is what's going on with her. She's, you know. So I got checked in. They're like, you can either stay or we're going to Baker Act you. And I was like, I'll stay. You don't need to Baker Act me. Like, I can't let that happen. So I was in there for about 4 days, which was absolutely terrifying. I was in the acute crisis unit, and I had a room to myself because there wasn't very many people in the acute crisis at that time. And there was like 3 beds in the room, and I felt like Goldilocks. Like I kept moving in between the different beds to make sure that I had the right one, so someone wasn't going to come in and do something with me. And a camera's watching me. They come in at like 5 in the morning and check my blood pressure, and they're like, your blood pressure is really high. I'm like, I'm scared, like, you know. So I eventually got out of David Lawrence after 4 days, and I immediately started therapy. I stopped using my drug of choice, but I was still drinking. And then I had a client who was like, how's your dating life going? I'm like, it's not going. She's like, oh, I know this guy, and he's so nice, da-da-da. I was like, whatever, just give him my number. And so we started talking, and they were very open with me about like their life and the things that they had been through. And that made me feel comfortable to share like basically what just happened to me 3 months ago, because I was going to take it to my grave. I was not going to tell anyone that I was in psychosis or got checked into the crisis unit. I wasn't going to tell anybody this. So it kind of gave me, like I was trauma bonding, really. But so he introduced me to the rooms, and I remember we came to a speaker meeting. I think this was like maybe in December, and it was a good meeting. And I think he asked me what I thought afterwards, and I was like, yeah, bro, this seems like good for you, but like I'm going to therapy, I'm not doing my drug of choice anymore, I'm just drinking. And then January rolled around, and like a really good person who's not, addicted to anything, to prove to myself I was going to do dry January. So I made it mostly through January. And then there was one Friday, I was driving home from work, and I was thinking about like how precious life is, and like my friend that had died, and like that connections are really what's important. And I went to Walmart to get food, and my mom called me, and she's like, Lindsey, I don't want you to freak out, but your dad was taken to the hospital by the ambulance. And I felt at that moment that I knew it was the last time that I was going to see my dad. So I made it another week without drinking after that. But then, I was in so much pain, and I was arguing with, the person I was dating. And one day, I justified it, because in the book of Proverbs, it says, let those who mourn drink wine. I was like, done. So that's what I did. And I got a bottle of...
It's in the book.
Yeah, justified. So I went and got a bottle of wine, and I also got a Delta 9 cartridge and some other drink that will definitely take some pain away. I remember laying in my bed, feeling like my heart was going to explode. I'm like, I'm about to stroke out. This is it. It wasn't. And the next day was not okay. Total drooling on myself, not with it at all. And, once I finally came to from that, I came to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and I picked up a white key tag. And, it was scary, right? I didn't really know anybody. I felt like everybody just associated with, this person that I was dating. And I felt like this new kid in a school where, everybody knew each other. But I took the suggestions. I went to 90 meetings in 90 days. I got a sponsor, got a home group. I called that sponsor, and I called one other addict, only one. I only called this one other addict. And there was a lot of days when I really didn't want to go to meetings, because with my job, I love my job dearly, but I talk to people literally all day and hear what's going on in their life and their problems. And then I had to call these other two people, and now we got to go sit in a room and listen to all these other people. I was like, bro. But it really kind of instilled in me what to do, because this year was very difficult with the grieving of my dad and just personal stuff going on. I remember Thanksgiving was a really, really rough day for me. I was just completely consumed in my grief. And I remember driving to a meeting, and I was so sad. And there had been so many times when I had drove around drunk, and I was really hoping that on my way there that a drunk driver would just smash into my car, and that I wouldn't be here anymore. I remember getting to the meeting, and I saw another addict, and he's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, I'm not good. And he, I told him, this is what's going on, my dad, blah, blah, blah. And, most of the time when people are at the rooms during the holidays, because like holidays pretty shitty for them or hard, and like he had expressed like how his day was and how it was really difficult, and like hearing somebody else also suffer like made me feel better. I was like, okay, I'm not the only one. So yeah, I just kept coming back, and no matter what, in those really, really difficult days, I didn't use no matter what. I would pick up the phone or go to a meeting. I started with my steps. I'm in step 4 right now, which is a lot. I mean, I really thought that, by this point being clean a year, that all my problems would be gone, but I'm sitting right here. The drugs were my solution to my problems, because my problem's really me. And so this fellowship has really helped me a lot. And when I was going through like the really, really dark stuff, like I felt completely surrounded by women who were caring and loving and understanding. And I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot of things that I don't like about myself and are really uncomfortable to sit with. And those ugly parts that need to be trimmed off, which is pretty painful and uncomfortable, but I want to keep growing and continuing to do the work, and I'm really thankful to be introduced to these rooms, but I had to get to my really low. If I didn't go into psychosis, I probably would have not been sitting here today. So I think that's about all I got.
Thanks for spending the time with me. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody who may need to hear it. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others around you. Remember that we're all doing the best that we can with the tools that we currently have, and we are all capable of growing past them. If you'd like to reach out or connect, send me an email, brian@naplesintegratedrecovery.com. I hope to hear from you there. And in the meantime, thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.